Hello there. It has been a while since I posted any videos to this channel, mostly because there just hasn't been anything that's really caught my attention enough to do anything that any other content creator would put out there in a higher quality. However, we're back today because Striker got changed, and I do love Striker, so I will be talking about him. And I'm just gonna say there ain't gonna be no crazy edits on this video. There's gonna be no edit actually whatsoever, and there will be no PvP. This will strictly just be showcasing the new kit and the new skills of Striker. So I'm sorry if you wanted to see PvP. I'm sure someone will be streaming that on Twitch, or they will post it on YouTube eventually. And I would also just like to note right now that this is just the first week of Striker, so there may come changes along the way, and there might get things that might get outdated in this video, so do take that with a hint of salt. However, without further ado, let's talk about the Awakening kit and what they've done for it. But before we do that, we have to talk about one skill that they've added to the normal kit. So down here at the bottom next to Martial Spirit, you're going to notice there's a new passive called Bloody Fang. And what this does is when you use a skill that consumes Martial Spirits, you will now get 30% crit rate for 10 seconds, and that's a buff for you, so you now have 30% more crit, and that's pretty good. This applies to both Awakening and Succession, so pretty good buff for both. Now you got 30% more crit, and it pretty much is uptime is gonna be permanent because you don't need to hit anything in order to cast that buff. So if I use Fallout real quick, let's use this. Alright, so if I use Fallout, it's going to consume 10 shards anyway without hitting anything, and now we have the 30% crit rate. So you do have to hit things to get the martial shards, but obviously if you can keep the crit rate up, that's pretty much 30% permanent. And now let's go look at the Awakening. So I'm going to be talking about the big changes first, and the biggest one, in my opinion, is going to be Echo Spirit. So if they just flat out double the damage on this thing, it's now hitting twice as hard, and there was no mention that it will be doing the same damage in PvP, so it does appear that it will be doing double the damage in PvP as well. However, this may get tuned, because in current state on live servers Echo Spirit, it already does hit pretty hard, so for them to double the damage on this seems pretty overly strong, and that is just my opinion, by the way. I would like to keep that in mind, but I feel that doubling the damage on this is going to be pretty devastating. And that is just for the base skill itself. There is no effect on the 100%. Everything else remains the same. The cooldown, the cost, the critical, the accuracy, all of that still remains the same. Moving on to the next biggest change is going to be Rampant Predator. So they removed the hit cap on this skill, so now it applies all hits, and there is no more limit to just 3. Already a good change. However, they've now added on to the flow. So Bite Off now is a second cast of Rampant Predator, and it will still summon the Echo Spirit to deal all the hits times 7. So this skill just got a 50% power boost. Technically 100% because now we're dealing full hits. So instead of going from 6 hits before, you're now going 11, and then you add the Echo Spirit, you're now at 18. So that's pretty crazy damage, and the way it works too is also unique. You still get the HP buff and everything, but you just have to hold F after Rampant Predator, and it will cast immediately right after. And now, if you're someone who likes to hold animations, you can still do that with Rampant Predator. So if you do this, still in Rampant Predator animation, and then hit F, you can still cast it. So it still functions exactly as the current Rampant Predator does, and I like that change a lot because you can trick animations. As long as they can't CC you from the distance, you can trick them and gap close with the flow now. Super good stuff. I like that a lot. Now moving on to Skull Crusher. This itself, they did not touch, but they did touch the flow. So now Skull Hammer, the big changes to this are it now debuffs evasion by 9%. Previously, Striker's Awakening kit has no evasion debuff whatsoever. And that is the Awakening kit. I'm not talking about the Unawakening. If we talk about Twisted Collision, or not Twisted Collision, it's the flow for Somersault, which debuffs evasion. That is for the Unawakened. Now the Awakening finally has something. And on top of that, they gave this air attack, and if you use this with shards, you consume 20 to do more damage, or 10. My Korean's still on the up and up. But yeah, now with air attack being on it, if you run the core for Skull Crusher, which applies a float, or sorry, knockdown, you will get air attack, which doubles the damage. And then on top of that, if you have martial spirits, you will consume those to do even more damage. Now, all of this being piled on the Skull Crusher leads me to believe that this is now by far the strongest skill in the game. Even though this is just a flow, Skull Crusher itself is already incredibly strong. Even without the debuff, the shards, the air attack, the skill itself is just incredible. But now with all this, I am convinced that this is the strongest skill in the game. And again, just my opinion. And now, moving on to the next change. It's going to be Infernal Destruction. Now, they did not touch the skill itself except for one thing, where the down smash now only applies on last hit, where previously it applied on good hits. So basically, every hit that it did, it would have a chance to apply down smash. Now it's just the last hit. However, Landbuster is completely different now. It is no longer a second cast of the skill. You are meted with this AoE Roar that is also full super armor during that, and it has a iframe in it. And to keep in note, this iframe can be used whenever. So if you want to use this at the beginning of the skill and just cast it for quick poke and then run out, you can. So as example, cast and then out of it. Or if you want to use it after the skill, the full skill went off, you can do that. You can use this whenever. It's half a second iframe, it's 3 seconds of super armor, and what isn't noted on the tooltip is you can put this on your hotbar. So you don't have to use Infernal Destruction at all to get this skill. As you notice on my hotbar, it's already down there, so you can just free cast this skill. So that's a massive improvement right there. I like that a lot. And the last big change that I consider massive is the double flash change. This no longer has a cooldown, and every time you flash step, you get three charges every time. Additionally, if you have martial spirits, you will get 3 extra charges. So if you have 3 spirits, you get 9 dashes. So I have 3 spirits right now. So I'm going to get 15 dashes because the skill will go off, and then my martial spirits will be used, and then the skill will come back off cooldown. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And it's pretty much seamless. That's pretty big. I do believe they will probably change that. I would be very surprised if that remained in the current state that it is. But yeah, that is still a big change, so we're going to talk about it. And lastly, not as high of a change, but it is up there, is Hellbreak. Hellbreak now has super armor when you land the grab. And if you don't land the grab, they increase the speed of the iframe. So it's about a 30% boost in the leap backwards, so the iframe is, it's more precise now, but still good for getting into that moment of danger should someone try to counter grab you. And then Fallout. They put martial spirit consumption on this as well, and now it does 6 hits. I'm not too crazy about Fallout. I don't use this normally, so I'm probably still not going to use it. Also because it does apply knockdown. But yeah, they did do that. And now on the smaller end of the spectrum, they improved the core for Spiral Cannon. So the super armor effect for this now is a total of 1.5 seconds. So in whatever duration it was before, it is now 1.5. It is 1 second for the Spiral Cannon itself, and then half a second after the animation is over for it to linger. So that is the new change to that. On Ultimate Crush, they have made air attack go on second and third hit now. And all DP minus 20 now applies on all hits, not just the first hit. So every hit now will apply DP down, which is a good change. Good for PvE and good for PvP. Endless Explosion, they just knocked down the willpower requirement. Nothing too crazy about this. They might have bumped the damage. I don't recall about this one particularly. Nothing crazy, but if they bumped the damage, that's still nice. And that mostly covers the skills itself. A lot of people will tell you now that the super armor gaps and the chaining of all that is better and virtually has no gaps. You would be better to ask them how it feels for PvP, as I cannot test this right now. And I'm going to hold off until they don't touch this anymore, or touch it way less, because I believe in the current state of it, it will be toned down a bit. But I could be wrong. But I just wanted to put this out there. I wanted to show it off. I love this class. I love this kit. And if you got any questions, you can just leave them below. Otherwise, yeah, I hope you guys have a good day.